This is just getting a little too predictable now, guys. Like I said before, it's all too obvious that Shinx is gonna have to save us yet again! We can't keep doing this, y'all! Our Lord and Savior is gonna think that we're weak! Weak! Alright, what is going on, y'all? Soul here, and welcome back to my story mode. So, as you can tell from the title of this video, we're going to be talking a little bit more about Pokemon Legends Arceus today. I do have another weirder video in the works for you guys right now, but that one may take a little more time, so I'm going to go ahead and put this one out, and possibly another one while I get to work on that one, and you guys may see that sometime around this time next week. And also, like I said before in previous videos, live streams are supposed to be starting up this month. If things are going right, by the time you see this, our first stream might actually be happening this weekend, so keep your eyes and ears out. No promises or guarantees though, I'm doing my best to make it happen, but I don't necessarily have the best living situation to be able to do that consistently and as freely as I'd like to, but I'm gonna try and make it work so we can get it to that point. So for now, just bear with me. As of right now, if you want to see anything that's Pokemon related, it's going to be happening right here on the channel. If you don't want to see anything Pokemon related, I'll be streaming those over on Twitch. The link to that page is right there in the description. If you want more updates consistently regarding that kind of thing, I'm right there on Twitter. Go ahead and follow me. Once again, link down in the description. And then the last thing that I need to say before we get on with this video is the fact that these are all ideas going forward, so don't take anything to heart just yet. These ideas are just information going by the little bit that we know about Sinnoh's past. And also, while I did say that out loud to you guys, and while I do mean it, this is more so a message for me. Y'all already know, when talking about this kind of thing, I can get a little bit excitable. But hey, when we have literally no information for 2 whole months, what else can you do? So with that, why don't we go ahead and start getting into my story predictions for Pokemon Legends. For starters, I think that this is going to be a straight path style of story. Realistically, as much as we would love it to be, I don't think it's going to be that much like Breath of the Wild. And I mean that from a gameplay standpoint. We're not going to have a scattered storyline that we have to find out for ourselves. It's a nice idea in theory, sure, but this is Game Freak that we're talking about right now. The game in of itself is a huge step for them. So I highly doubt that they're gonna start changing the ways that they're doing their stories. Trust me when I say I know that all of us would love for them to be that ambitious, but right now, I feel that they think that what we're getting right now is enough. So, what can you do? So to sum it up, I basically expect us to be following a straight path, like we always have been. And also, to Pokemon's usual fashion, I do expect other characters to be around for the journey. I don't think they'll be the most heftily developed characters of all time or anything, but I think they're going to be fun to be around nonetheless. We're going to be traveling alone for the entire time, there's no doubt about that, but we'll most likely report to certain people for missions involving the story. And possibly some side quests, depending on how Game Freak wants to handle this. So as far as the gameplay goes, that's generally how I expect the story to be handled. So now, why don't we start getting into the real meat of things? First, I'm going to start talking about Arceus' place in the story. He's the name of the game, so I think that he's most likely going to be serving as our guide to progress through the story. It's hard for me to imagine him being our enemy because if he was, there would be literally no way of stopping him. Considering the fact that he's the one that created the world to begin with, he knows what we're capable of. There's no reason that he would create something that would be a threat to him. That would be ridiculous. Also, we would have had to do something real dirty to piss him off. And I can't even imagine what that thing would be. Long story short, I just personally don't see Arceus fitting as the antagonist. Mostly because we would be completely outmatched against God itself. Shinx can only do so much, man. God created it too. During this whole situation, I see Arceus as the one to give us guidance and instruction to get us from task to task. Obviously, there's gonna be more going on within the world itself that's gonna fall in line with the missions that Arceus gives us, but for the most part, Arceus is the one that we're gonna be listening to. Going based off the little that we do know about Arceus, we know for a fact that it created the world of Pokemon, but it has a lot of trouble trusting humans. And honestly, for good reason. I can't lie to you, Chief, humans kinda suck. I'm currently under the impression that this journey is what's gonna change the opinions that Arceus has currently on humans. Whatever happens throughout this journey is what's going to prove to Arceus that Pokemon and humans can get along and work together. Most likely, you are going to be somewhat of Arceus' chosen candidate. Whether it be through telepathy or in the form of another Pokemon, Arceus is going to be consistently watching you and those around you and judging to see if you and the people around you and the Pokemon that's around you are capable of getting along and making the world of Pokemon a better place. Every single one of us is going to have Shinx in our party, but I know for a fact that we are not going to want that smoke if we want to prove to Arceus that we can coexist. Now, quite obviously, Arceus is not going to be physically right there with us for our entire journey. As a matter of fact, much to how most Pokemon games go, I don't expect to meet Arceus until the very end of the game. There's going to be some kind of oncoming threat, and I think that Arceus wouldn't be able to be there in person for some weird reason. I think we're gonna get a lot of its story and history throughout our journey, and then we'll finally find out by the end of it what it was that was withholding Arceus from coming down and dealing with whatever's happening itself. So with that just about does it for where my thoughts are when it comes to Arceus' place in the story. Moving along here, why don't we start talking about Dialga and Palkia? I'll put it like this. I fully believe that these two are going to be the danger for Sinnoh, essentially. Now, I'm sure that a lot of you are probably under the impression that it's more likely to be Giratina. However, there's a very specific reason as to why I don't think that Giratina is going to be involved. We'll get to that in a little bit. Whatever the case, this is where I think that the world is going to first learn about the existence of Dialga and Palkia, the gods of time and space. And unfortunately, they're going to learn about it the hard way. From what we know of Dialga and Palkia, for whatever reason, they are very angry creatures. And they are also very strong considering that they control time and space. And what happens when two creatures that don't get along and are very strong and very angry consistently meet? Yeah, they're gonna fight. And I know that the movies aren't necessarily canon in any way, shape, or form to the games, but when you look at a movie like The Rise of Darkrai, I think it's very fair to assume that something very similar might go down if they were to meet and fight right there above Sinnoh. Arceus is most likely going to be the one to warn us about this inevitable arrival. Looking at the grand scheme of things, a battle like that is sure enough to shake more than just the Earth. And I know for damn sure Arceus is not going to let all of its hard work get thrown away just because two gods can't handle sitting in the same room as one another. And that right there is where you come in. A huge threat is on the rise and you're the chosen trainer destined to cease or at least quell that arrival. Most of your journey is most likely going to be in preparation for them showing up. Of course, your side job is going to be assisting whatever professor decided to show up in this new Sinnoh to fill up the Pokédex and things like that. But your main priority is going to be keeping the Earth safe. Obviously, there has to be a reason why Arceus can't come down and deal with that situation itself, but we're really not going to know why that is until we actually partake in the journey. For all we know, Arceus may need a couple more years of rest because creating the universe possibly may have drained it from doing anything else. It's also going to be another big factor as to whether or not humans and Pokemon will be able to handle themselves if something else like this comes along. We're most likely going to need to prove to Arceus that even if something this huge comes along, we as humans and Pokemon will be able to deal with the situation as they come. However, this is a much bigger threat, and if we didn't have any kind of warning, if it caught us off guard, we would be dead as soon as we saw it happen. So this right here may be the one and only time that Arceus decides to throw us a little bit of a bone. Hell, for all we know, Arceus could be completely incapacitated right now. Possibly because it got caught in the middle of Dialga and Palkia's battle. And because it knew that they would be very hard to stop, it decided to rely on humanity to deal with it. There's really no way of knowing, but honestly, I'd place my bets on that. So that just about does it for most of my ideas for Dialga and Palkia's placement within the story of Legends Arceus. For the next piece, and possibly the most important piece, I'd like to talk about the Lake Trio, Azelf, Uxie, and Mesprit. There's quite a couple of reasons as to why these three may point to being the heart of this game. For starters, let's go ahead and talk about Celestic Town for a quick second. If you guys can recall back in Pokemon Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, Celestic Town is where we first met Cynthia's grandmother. She was the one that incentivized us to go inside the ruins that were sitting randomly in the middle of town. After giving us some old charms, she briefly explained the deities that were painted on the wall inside the ruins. And this right here is the first tidbit of history that we ever got on the Lake Trio. And that right there is precisely why I decided to bring up Celestic Town. There's no way that they're just gonna sit there and ignore the fact that Celestic Town has ancient ruins with ancient cave paintings talking about a little bit of the history of Sinnoh in its own way. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but Celestic Town gives me the vibes that it's gonna be very important to this story. It's also very possible that Celestic Town might just be the birthplace of the Lake Trio. Let me explain. Now, I'm sure that we're all more than aware by now that their creation was for the sole purpose of protecting Sinnoh from Dialga and Palkia. Like I stated earlier, in more than one occasion it's been made very clear that they do not get along, and calming those two down is the sole purpose of the existence of the Lake Trio, which is precisely why Cyrus captured them and didn't let them do their job. Once we managed to free them, those three went off to do what they were meant to do, and they soothed and eased the gods of time and space. Now obviously this is not the first time that they've done this. They knew exactly what they needed to do to get those two under control. If it was embedded in history, that means that they had to have done this once before. So considering the fact that Pokemon Legends Arceus is all about the discovery of Sinnoh, it's only fair to presume that this is the first time that it happened. And that right there is precisely why I think that these three are going to be at the very heart of this story. They are going to be what drives you, and they're going to be what you need to protect and guide so they can successfully stop the destruction of Sinnoh and possibly the entire world. These three are going to be absolutely crucial to the development of the story. It's under very fair belief that Arceus is going to instruct you with their protection and guidance. According to history, those three were born from one egg, which makes a lot of sense. They are triplets after all. Which leads me to believe that some of the earlier missions that we're going to be receiving in this game is to find and protect that egg. And I gotta tell you, Chief, I don't think that it's going to be as cut and dry as that mission may seem to be. I have a feeling that we're most likely going to find that egg residing in Celestic Town, and I don't think that the residents are going to let us walk away with some big magic egg that easily. Clearly, it's not going to be very easy to retrieve that egg. However, we are going to know for a fact that the best place that this egg could be is with us. So, whatever we gotta do to peacefully get our hands on that egg, we're gonna do them, and we're gonna make damn sure we do them right. Now, as for my last thoughts on this piece right here, you are probably sitting there thinking that I'm forgetting about something very crucial, and I can tell you right now, that is definitely not the case. Now, as it's been stated in history, and as we have physically seen it in Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, Azelf, Uxie, and Mesprit used the power of the red chains to help quell Dialga and Palkia. We don't exactly know why those chains were created, but we know for a fact that those three are the only ones that could utilize its true power to calm those two down. Obviously, those chains can fall into the wrong hands and they can control Dialga and Palkia in the completely wrong way, as we've seen with Cyrus, but those three bring out the power that it was meant for. Which is why I now believe that one of our bigger missions is going to be to help develop the red chains. And then once all the pieces are in order, we leave it to the Lake Trio to finally calm down those two raging beasts. Again, I don't think it's going to be that simple, but that's the general idea. So that right there pretty much sums up my ideas on where the Lake Trio fits into the story. Something tells me that we're going to have an entirely different attachment to them once this game is over. But also, remember how I was saying that Giratina doesn't really fit into the story here? Yeah, this is precisely why. Sure, they could throw in Giratina somewhere if they really wanted to, but overall speaking, he doesn't really fit into the general history of Sinnoh. He's very clearly not as involved with the history of Sinnoh, so there was really no reason to mark him down. If they really wanted to, they could add some DLC for him down the line, but overall I just don't really see him doing much. Now moving on here before we get any more derailed, we need to talk about the possibility of other antagonists. Besides spin-off games, there has not been one mainline game where the Pokemon itself was just the center of the problem. Like I said recently, there's no way that it's going to be as simple as just receiving the eggs, raising the trio, and being ready for the end of times. I have no doubt in my mind that there's going to be somebody that learns about this oncoming calamity and wants to make sure that it absolutely happens at all costs. I know it sounds a little insane, but literally look at any Pokemon antagonist that we've ever had. That is pretty much always the case. We've come to learn growing up that no matter how obviously good something may be, there's gonna be an opposing side to that good. Which means that there's going to be someone, possibly an organization of people, that's gonna have it out for this Egg of Legend. Now I could see this going one of two ways. They're either going to A, try to utilize the power of the egg to control Dialga and Palkia for themselves, much like the original Team Galactic, or B, they're going to attempt to try and withhold or destroy the egg and allow the two to go ham and allow nature to take its course. Because I'm sure that if somebody had the knowledge that two gods were coming to practically destroy the Earth and that the Earth would get swept up in that battle, it means that that planet was never really meant to exist to begin with. And that probably sounds like some crazy Pokemon religious type of situation, but you know what? There might just be people out there that believe that kind of thing. Hell, when you really think about it, any given team in the main series Pokemon games are cults. All cults share a very similar belief, so if one person believes that and they're the leader, they're gonna get other people that have that same belief and go to town to do whatever they can to make sure that that belief comes to fruition. Now that I say it all out loud, that second one might be a little bit of a stretch, but you know what? I don't think it's that crazy. Trust me when I say that there are much crazier ideas that I could have for a Pokemon story. I'm just trying to steer towards the most realistic ones. So moving along here, I'm sure that we're all wondering the exact same thing. Who in the right mind would be crazy enough to allow something like that to happen? And what's the craziest thing is, there is no telling who that person or who these people could be right now. The only thing that we really have to go on right now is complete ancestry. And frankly, the only person that could possibly be crazy enough to allow something like that to happen would probably be the ancestor of Cyrus. That person could be leading a revolution to attempt to cleanse the world that's developing Pokeballs and whatnot, so that the world could be apparently what it was meant to be. Now me personally, I feel like that's just a little too obvious. I'm telling you right now, by the time that we see the next trailer for this game, if I see somebody with bright blue hair in that game, I'm gonna lose my mind because I freaking called it and I kinda didn't want it to be that because it's so obvious. And yet, unfortunately, it would make way too much sense. But this is Pokemon that we're talking about. Predictability is practically their middle name. And so with that, that pretty much concludes all of the story prediction ideas that I had for Pokemon Legends Arceus. Now again, I tried to keep this as realistic as I could based on what we know about the general history of the Sinnoh region. Personally, I think it makes a lot of sense, but hey, I could be completely off base. I could be completely wrong, and maybe Arceus himself is really out to destroy us, and we have to use the power of Giratina to stop it. As of right now, there's simply no telling what this game is going to give us, and you know what? That's a little exciting to me, which is why I can't wait for this game. Whatever storyline they decide to roll with, we have no idea if it's going to be good or bad. But long story short, we're all looking forward to it, and it has a lot of potential because this is something so brand new. Very, very rarely do we actually get to explore the history of Pokemon like this in a canonic fashion. That's why this is so interesting. And I'm sure that we can all agree that we're very happy that they decided to pick Sinnoh to try something like this. Sinnoh has a very simple history, but it could be so much deeper than we even realize. It's so fascinating, and I'm just super excited to see what they run with. But with that, I think that's about enough gushing from me. I want to hear what you guys think about this. Do you guys think that I'm spot on with this one, and we're gonna get a deep dive into Sinnoh's history? Or do you think that I'm completely in the wrong and we're gonna get some random non-canon story that has nothing to do with the lore? Like I always say, I'm here for all of your guys' ideas, and I'm gonna read all of them in the comment section below. I'm always down there. But with that, I think it's about skedaddle o'clock. So I'm gonna leave you guys to it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I truly do hope you enjoyed. Make sure to drop a like and a comment, and make sure to subscribe for more content just like this. And with that, I'm gonna go ahead and jump on out of here. Thank you again, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Do me the greatest favor of taking good ass care, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!